Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
Movie.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex?
Klopex.
Klopek.
Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Cult Film in Review. I'm your host, Cody Everett, and this week we are talking about Emilio Estevez and Repo Man. He plays Otto, a punk rocker that gets caught up in the repo game. You know what? Without saying anything else, let's just start the show. Guys, we are talking about
what are we talking about?
Repo Man. That's what we're talking about.
Repo Man.
First, we're going to talk about our weeks. This is Cult Film and Review. I am your host, Cody Everett. Sitting next to me is the normal group of fucking yahoos. So we'll just go around saying how our week was. Chris, how was your week?
It was pretty good. I got a kitten, so it's been interesting. I have two cats, but I kind of forgot what the kitten lifestyle was like. And it's basically a fucking cat crawling around on your head and pushing its claws out up your nose and playing with your feet while you sleep. So it's been pretty good, but no, he's really cute. His name's Andre.
3000?
Andre 3000.
So what
Lil
you're saying
Andre, Lil Dre, anything you want to call him.
You haven't slept in a week.
Little Wiggle Boots?
Yeah, you know.
I liked that name so much better.
You can call him Wiggle Boots.
I'm calling him Wiggle Boots.
I'm going to call him Wiggle Boots,
I
too.
encourage all nicknames for pets.
Mike, how's your week been?
It's going all right. I'm sorry. I apologize to the audience already. I'm a little under the weather, so if you hear any weird coughing or sneezing, I apologize. But otherwise, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to muscle through this.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Good. You know, hey, drink some OJ and power through,
I got
bro.
this bottle of water.
Do a shot.
I've been drinking probably 8 bottles of, a shot, right?
Right.
Let's do it.
Kill it with whiskey, dude. You should just chug whiskey
gargle
all
with
night.
Jack Daniels.
Yeah,
that
dude.
will fix anything.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's how cowboys
That'll
used
make
to
for
get
a
better.
great show.
That's how they did in the old Wild West.
That's how cowboys did it.
Well,
Yeah.
we're in Phoenix. It's the Wild West. So start gargling Jack Daniels.
There it is.
Kyle, how was your week?
My week was good. I don't know if I did anything. I had inventory at work. That sucked. I had to be at work at 4 a.m.
That does suck.
I'd fucking kill myself. Bought way too many donuts, so had a plethora of donuts. I bought enough donuts to feed like 5 stores worth of people. I totally overestimated everybody else's ability to consume donuts like myself.
How many can you eat?
I ate probably half of the donuts I brought in.
How many donuts did you bring in?
Was it a dozen or a
It was a
baker's
couple
dozen?
dozen.
A couple dozen? 2 dozen? 3 dozen?
2 dozen.
It was 2 dozen.
Oh,
24 donuts for how many people?
For 4 to 5 people. I figured, hey,
That sounds realistic.
So what are we talking
Did you bring
here?
any over tonight?
no, they're all gone.
Are we
They're all gone.
Are we talking old fashioned?
Who ate them all, Kyle?
No, that's a variety.
okay.
I ate pretty much almost all of those.
Would you go to Dunkin'?
Yeah, I did go to Dunkin' because it was the only place I could find that was open at 4 a.m. that I could place that kind of order with.
Did you get
God bless Dunkin'.
Did you get the large coffee?
I got the box of Joe.
Yeah, box of Joe.
I got and I overestimated on that. I got 2 boxes of Joe.
Yeah, that's way too much.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I can't wait till the district manager comes back to me like, why did you spend $60 on donuts and coffee? Like, I don't know.
Inventory, bro.
We want a
Like on a
breakfast.
sugar high.
I had like heartburn for 2 days with the amount of donuts I was eating. So much damn sugar.
I don't think
and
the human
coffee.
body is meant to eat that many donuts.
No, it's not. It's not. It's terrible. Anyhow, that was my week. It was. Other than that, it was good. Yeah.
Okay.
Boom.
My week has consisted of playing with Mike.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
You said it that way.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Just playing with each other.
Yeah, we're playing with each other.
play each
Yeah, we
other.
play each other
We
all
play
the
with each
time.
other.
Yeah, no, we're playing the Elder Scrolls Online on
Yeah,
Xbox
we're
One
killing
right
it.
now. So
I thought you hated Xbox. Like, why are we suddenly into this? Like, you just bragged about E3. You're bragging about this.
I like the idea of backwards compatibility with the Xbox One, and they're remastering Gears of War, the original, so I'm a fan of that. That's one of my favorite game series. And then we're playing this Elder Scrolls Online. The reason I got it for Xbox One instead of my PS4 was because online games just run better on Xbox. That's just a fact. So
Yeah,
to me,
because nobody fucking has an Xbox One, so there's no one on the server.
there you go, dude. We get into
That
games
doesn't
so quick.
necessarily mean it's better.
But we've been questing all week. That's what we've been doing. We've been saving Tamriel. Thanks. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Chris, I don't know what that means.
I
Can
don't
you
know
help me
what
out?
the fuck you guys are talking
Okay.
about.
That's video games. All right, guys. This week we are talking about Repo Man. It stars Emilio Estevez. Who directed this? Who was it? It was
Alex Cox.
Alex Cox directed it. And the other big star was what's his name? Stanton. Oh God.
Harry Dean Stanton.
Yep.
Yep.
He was the other big actor in this. Probably, dude. I love him.
And for those who don't know, Alex Cox also directed Sid and Nancy.
I did know that.
Yeah.
I did not know
And a
that.
bunch,
did not
and a
know
bunch
that.
of
So
other
if
films
if
that,
anybody's seen
no
that,
one's ever heard of.
I have not seen
you
it.
can
so.
see like the punk rock influence at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Sid and Nancy is about punk rock,
Absolutely.
so
Okay, so let's just talk about Repo Man then, and its punk rock influence since we're just talking about it right now. So it's definitely a very heavy punk rock influence in this movie. I think it was made in 1984. And I did that's the one thing that kind of bothered me with this movie a little bit. Like I just didn't believe Emilio Estevez
was into punk.
was into punk like
Yeah.
at all. Like he didn't sell me as a character.
He looked more realistic and believable with the suit and tie on.
I agree.
Yeah.
Except when he was in the caddy, he looked like a 12-year-old. But
I just think it's what we're used to seeing him as. Like this was a really early role for him, so he was still pretty young.
I don't
I'm
honestly
just saying,
think
like the white jacket looked like all weird, and like I just didn't like when they were doing the slam dancing in the parking lot. It just looked like he was the actor, so everybody was like staying away from him. You know what I mean? Like I didn't believe it. Like he didn't sell me on the punk rock character.
Okay.
You know what? I was more sold on the other side of the character story that he was telling of like he's just a displaced youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I did believe that, but the punk rock part of it, I didn't get.
I don't know. I think his attitude, he played the role well enough that it made it believable for me. Like he could be just like some kind of like introverted, like outcast punk that kind of comes from like a weird home lifestyle. You know what I mean? I felt that in his delivery too. I did.
Yeah.
Going back to what you're saying though, that we're just what we're used to. Like I honestly don't have a preconceived
you do.
vision of what Emilio
Yeah, you do.
What?
It's burned into your mind.
What
In a suit, dude. Mighty Ducks. He's
Yeah.
in a suit like the whole damn movie.
You know what? No,
Yeah,
I don't connect that with him. Like I know that's like his big role,
You
but
don't
like,
Coach Bombay. You don't not.
I didn't
connect
even
Coach
know.
Bombay.
I didn't even know that was the character's name in Mighty Ducks. I've seen Mighty Ducks several times, but
Oh,
I
man.
don't have like, oh, this is Emilio's role. Like, what's the coach doing in a punk band? Not at all. It's just him like miscast. That's all. He was not cast correctly.
See, I think he was cast correctly once we got out of the punk rock world, which was pretty quick because what happens is his friend comes back from juvie, which I thought it was jail, but we find out it's juvie. And he sleeps with his I'm guessing what is Emilio's girlfriend, Otto's girlfriend.
I thought that was a prostitute at the beginning, just the way it was playing out. Did anyone else feel that?
I don't know.
No.
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 Because he folded up his pants. He's like put his hands behind his head. He's like, okay, you
No.
can start now.
Yeah,
It's
that's because he's rebellious.
That was his
dude.
attitude.
Didn't he get her like
Yeah.
a? Didn't he get her like a soda?
No, he went and got a beer.
He got her another beer so she
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
own his.
Yeah.
When he comes
I
back,
don't know.
You don't think his
There's a-
attitude would pay for a
Punk
prostitute?
rock, it doesn't just like I mean I don't think of punk rock as just being a fucking like fanned mohawk and that's like dyed a certain color and all black. His friends were like obviously way more like rebellious than he ever was. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Well, but
Or
he
were
also
they
had
the posers trying
I don't
too
think so.
hard?
I think the one
shit,
guy
dude.
that gets shot.
You just took that to a
definitely.
different level.
But he had the
Boom.
irony of punk music. He was wearing the cross as an earring, but he clearly did not like Christianity at all.
right.
You know, he was
Yeah.
definitely fucked the system.
I think Emilio played it well. I don't have a problem with accepting that he's like kind of on his way out of the punk lifestyle and he's like he knows like he doesn't have a future, so he's just kind of trying to find his way out.
I got to go back here a minute before we even talk about Emilio and the punk lifestyle. Let's talk about the opening scene where a cop pulls over a car he basically is told to not look in the trunk, so he looks in the trunk. But when he opens the trunk, a bright light shines, and you see his skeleton, and he just evaporates.
Turns into like X-ray vision.
Yeah.
It's like a photo flash almost. Like
So that happens right in the beginning of the movie, and you're kind of like, when I first saw that, I was like, "What the fuck are we watching?"
Right,
Like that's initially how I felt. Like, wait, fuck. Like I was like, "God damn it!" Because especially with like the one glass piece.
You know what?
Right.
And the eye. And
What's funny is I've never seen this movie before until I watched it.
Either have I.
And dude, before that part even happened, before the cop even opened it, for some reason in the back of my head, I'm like, is this like a fucking sci-fi or something? Like, I don't know why I have this preconceived notion in my head, but I just thought it was about aliens for some reason.
What was that? I agree.
I don't know. I think you know what I think what it was
The
was the
desert?
very first image you see when this film begins is the maps, and it starts with Roswell. And it pulls out, and I'm like, oh, guys, this is about fucking aliens? I thought this is about some dude repossessing cars.
But it is about aliens. I mean,
It is.
I know it's about
Yeah.
that, but I don't know.
So
I agree. You get that feeling. Like you could
Yeah.
tell right off the bat that it was going somewhere like
So
that.
that part happened for me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then we get into Emilio's story with the punk rock and stuff, and him, getting pissed and walking out, and then falling into a trick of a repo man, and stealing a car, and then being taken into the repo life. That's the story that I loved. That story was phenomenal. That's the one that drew me in. It's like he learned how to take his angst and his anger and put it into stealing cars.
Yeah.
And I really liked that part of the story.
Yeah. I thought that was well written.
Well,
Very well written.
It's the main part of the film. I feel like the alien thing is almost like it's weird. It's like another story going on over the layer of this real story,
Right.
But it's presented as to be the story that you're going to watch, and then you kind of don't even see that car for about a half an hour. Like,
Yeah.
Can I say what you're pointing out? What my biggest problem with this movie was is it felt like there was 4 or 5 subplots that were all competing for the main storyline. Like I never once felt like it was a cohesive film.
Yeah, there was no base or something.
Yeah, there
to
was no
it.
baseline to it. So, am I supposed to be putting my attention and investing all my emotional everything into the UFO story? Should I be giving a shit about Emilio's character? Should I be giving a shit about Harry Dean Stanton
Bud.
fueled with the feud with
I think
the
it's
fucking
personal
Mexican
choice.
dudes? Like,
Personal choice. You take away what you want from
should
it.
I be following the punk guys on their constant crime spree? Like, and
tell you-
you're saying it's a choice, but I didn't feel like I had a choice because I was never given enough of each element to actually.
Well, we open
enjoy.
I have the answer. Though there's one thing that ties every single one of those things together, and that's Emilio. That's his character. He ends up in every one of those stories.
Yeah.
So it's I think those stories are there to show, like, because they all connect with him. I like it's all part of what happens to him as a repo man, basically.
Here's my take on it. I agree with you a little bit, Kyle, because that's exactly how I felt. Like halfway into the film, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what happened to this car? Like, we're not even dealing. And then when we finally see it, it's just like, Jesus Christ, like, it's been a half an hour where it's like Emilio, like, getting into, like, Harry Dean Stanton giving him the code of the repo man and stuff like that.
Which I love those
No,
scenes.
it was absolutely
those
fantastic.
scenes are so great.
But it did feel like two competing things. And the whole time I'm watching this film, I'm trying to figure out, is it genius because he's breaking convention, or is it just badly written? Like structurally,
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Or like the editing, like was off. So maybe if they rearranged certain scenes, you would be able to feel like you're following the Emilio story, but woven a little better throughout the entire film.
I think it had to do with editing. I think that could have been a big part of it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the writing was a little atrocious at some points. I was not a fan of that either.
I think there's some beautiful lines in this film.
You know what's so funny? Like when we were getting ready to do the lines, getting ready to do this, Cody's writing bullet points on the whiteboard, and Chris shouts out favorite lines, and it shot through my head like, I don't fucking remember a single line from this movie.
Oh, I feel
Not
like
I can name a
single
few.
fucking line.
A few.
But again, like, I'm in the same boat, but I've only seen it once. Have you seen it multiple times, Mike?
No, this is the first time I've ever
Okay.
seen it.
I've
Chris?
seen it a couple times.
seen it- oh,
I've
this
seen
is
it
your
probably
pick, so, yeah.
3 times, 3 or 4.
Okay, so you know what? With that, we'll be back. We're going to talk more about the story, the director, the cast, the characters, our favorite quotes. That's all later. Stay with us.
You're all repo men.
What if we are?
kid, usually when somebody pulls shit like that, my first reaction is, I want to punch his fucking lights out. But you know something? You're all right.
We are talking about, what movie are we talking about again? Repo Man. That's right. We're talking about Repo Man this week on Cult Film in Review. Let's get into the director because I want to talk about one of the choices he made, which was every consumable item was labeled with like this blue and white label.
Generic tag.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it also.
I loved it too.
I thought it was.
What's the message behind it, though? Does anyone know? Like, because I was wondering that the whole time, and that's what I was trying to figure out. Like most of the movie, I'm like, what the fuck is he trying to say?
I don't know.
Is it like a they live
Maybe
statement?
it was just a visual.
I don't know
statement.
if it has anything to do with it, but I did read up on the director a little bit, and he isn't a big fan of capitalism. There is that.
Okay.
So he's not a big fan of like promoting commercial things and stuff like that, which is interesting because the irony in it is that none of the products have fucking names, but all of the Repo Men are named after beers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like commercial beers.
It's very punk rock.
Yeah.
I did not catch on to
It's
that.
Bud, Miller, Light, and a beer named Ollie, which apparently is like it's defunct now, but it was a beer that came out of Olympia, Washington.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not catch on to that either.
Not at all.
So what else about the director then? Like, okay, what do you guys think? How did the job that I definitely think he proves that he has a style and he has a unique way of telling a story.
Yeah. I think he understands cultures really well, like at the time. You know what I mean? Like, and how to sort of exaggerate it, but like. You know, I like from what I gather, he was definitely involved with the repossession of vehicles as a occupation. So he has like a lot to draw from that. I would also assume that he was probably heavy into the punk rock scene, you know, or like at least kind of grew up in it, like because it was a huge influence on the film.
For sure. What's the interesting thing about him is that this film is considered one of the greatest films ever shot in L.A. that captures the LA culture and captures that LA punk culture. But he's not from America, he's from Britain.
Interesting.
So, I mean, he did come here, I think, for film school or something. He did come out here and he lived here for a while, but I mean, he picked up on it pretty quickly. And when you see this film, it is all about like Black Flag and all these LA punk groups that came out, and it was just, you know.
But
like,
I think he's a result of coming from another country and then getting dumped into what's going on, and your awarenesses are so sharpened because you're in a new place that like you can really like take all of that in. And he obviously was able to translate it into a film.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. He definitely translated it into a film as we watched it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's talk about the cast then for a little bit. You got Emilio Estevez, who I think we've already talked about is maybe not some of people's favorite character or best actor in this film. He's not at his best, but this is one of his earlier films. You know what I mean? So I can give him some slack on that. I think the real shining star is Bud.
Yeah.
Like hands
Harry
down.
Dean Stanton.
Absolutely.
Dude steals the show. Steals the show.
Anytime he's on screen, I feel like the movie's about him or should have been about him.
I do like Light a lot too, who was the African American
I loved
guy
him
that was
too.
because he was like, what's interesting about it is he's the fucking polar opposite of Bud.
Yeah.
Like Bud goes in there and he gives him all these codes, like we don't break the cars. And I actually read this up on IMDb trivia. When Emilio is riding in the car with Light, he breaks every fucking one of those rules that Bud tells him to do. And he's just the absolute opposite. He doesn't. He believes that they're thieves. You know, he's like, we're just car thieves.
Yeah, because he says that about the brothers. Like they're car thieves just like we are.
Yeah,
you know. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Bud was probably one of the best characters. My second favorite would have to be the janitor guy,
Miller.
Yeah. He was just fun to have on screen. He was like the only element of the film that I thought was like entertaining or fun to watch.
I think he has the best lines in this whole film.
Absolutely.
I think it also speaks values.
Values.
Yeah, volumes about the Repo Men cast, because no one's mentioned like the weirdo scientist ladies, the one with the metal hand.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, those people.
Those, yeah. And like their henchmen, which would like, one of them got punched and like his comb over like flew back. It was real funny to me. I laughed at that really hard. But there's also that weird element to the visuals in it too, that like the punk rockers when they come in and like to that meeting that he's having with the two weird scientist ladies, and they start like sucking on her her metal hand, which is like it looks like it's wrapped in tinfoil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thought was that was odd. Like
I think they represent like they're the most absurd part of this film. Like including I guess a light that like disintegrates you from a trunk.
It wasn't a light; it was corpses apparently.
Alien corpses.
Alien corpses.
Yep,
I guess so.
Which it was.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that the picture that she shows is actually blown up condoms, like with water in them, and then they have little Hawaiian shirts on?
Is that what I didn't even? I couldn't even make out the
Yeah,
picture.
You can't
so-
really tell. Which is funny. He's just like, is this sausages? Yeah, it's sausages. No, it's alien blood.
I rented it in standard
The dialogue.
definition, so it wasn't a real.
I
sharp
also
picture
did
on
not pay for high HD on this one.
Me either. I didn't either.
But I think the guys in the white suits, some of the stuff they do is ridiculous. Like when they set that guy's
Oh
body
my
on fire
God.
in front of everybody.
They set people on
and
fire a
one-
lot
it's just
in this
like,
movie.
So
look at
that's
this.
the other thing too. I will say this: I was a little weirded out because if you know me personally, you know that I watch everything with subtitles, right? Mm-hmm. And
You do?
Yeah, everything. I watch.
actually did not know that about you.
I watch everything with subtitles because that's just I've gotten so used to it, and I don't hear good.
You want to be able to know everything that's going on.
So there was a lot of parts like when I first started watching the movie, I was like, God, the fucking audio on this movie is atrocious, like
Yeah.
atrocious.
It wasn't
yeah,
that good.
I kept like
Turning
it
it up.
and turning it
Yeah.
down. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
It was not
but
mixed well.
The thing is oddly enough, there is little snippets and things that you don't hear, but there's lines.
Really?
Yeah, when you have like you hear conversations that people are like, so the openings like when they're investigating the officer's body out in the desert. And they're walking away from the scene, and they're walking towards, I think if it's like a police car or van.
It's the van.
The van.
Yeah.
There's a whole conversation they're having as they're walking, and I bet you guys didn't hear it.
I think I heard like the tail end.
And
of
it,
it.
yeah, and it comes through audioly at the tail end, but there's a whole conversation as they're walking, and it's just weird, random shit that they're saying. And it's in there on the text. And like, so those guys in the white suits, they're talking when they're doing that stuff.
Oh shit!
But you don't hear it through the audio because the audio is
I
terrible.
just heard like chatter. Like,
you hear
know,
chatter, but
like-
it has what they're saying in the words, and you're like, what the fuck? They're like, pick that body up, bring it over here, burn it. Like stuff like that, like weird stuff like that. Like I recommend watching it again with the captions on.
That's awesome. I want to do that.
Yeah, because you don't. Am I right? You don't hear Harry Dean Stanton uses a phrase, like a popular phrase in Mexican culture. I think it's from Zapata. That's
I have
like,
no idea.
I'd rather live on my feet than die on my knees.
Yes.
When he's been shot.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear it until I read it. That was one of the lines that he said.
No, he says it. You can hear it.
I could hear
You
it.
can? Okay.
Yeah.
I was on the
I don't
assumption that I
remember him
just
saying
It's
missed
more
it.
like it's like more of like the scenes with where it's like almost like B-roll where they're like burning the bodies or they're cleaning up something or something like that. And it has just like weird dialogue in it that is not relevant to the movie.
Is it
Well,
like,
I love how they do foreground and background like a lot in the film throughout the film. You know, something will be happening in the foreground, and the camera will move, and then it'll like you'll see the action happening in the background after that, or there'll be a lot happening in the foreground as well as a lot happening in the background.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great idea.
kind of like what, like Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah.
You hear people like, oh my God, this shirt is
Yeah.
so ugly.
Yeah,
that's
stuff like
all
that.
you're hearing in the
Yeah.
back, but you're not paying any attention to it because you're focused on the game.
All right, guys. So who is your favorite character in this movie then? Who's your absolute favorite character? Because we talked about a couple of characters that we like, but who's your favorite?
Bud for me.
Bud? Bud's Bud's an easy
I mean,
choice.
but second runner up would be Emilio. I thought I really liked his dialogue and his performance.
What's the Rent-A-Cops?
His name is Otto as well.
Otto as well?
Otto Plechky or something.
I fucking love that guy. That guy was hilarious in this movie.
I thought his name was
You don't-
Ollie.
It might be Ollie.
Oh, I thought Ollie was the guy that was handing everybody beer. The one that his wives were like hitting on Emilio in the bar.
Anyways, he says one of my favorite lines, which is he's like, "You haven't earned the right to say fuck you."
He was so good.
So good. He was so good.
That's like his only point of dialogue in that whole film. Though.
It's like fuck you.
Otherwise, he's sitting in the office knitting.
I loved how Bud called everybody dildos, or at least that group, those brothers or whatever.
Yeah.
His insult to them, direct insult, was always some kind of dildo reference. I thought that was fucking hilarious, especially for an old man like him to be screaming dildo into the air.
Hey kid, you want to make $10?
Fuck off, queer. No, it's nothing like that. I see my wife; she's about to drop.
He's so good, man. He's so believable as that character. Bud's my favorite. Mike, who's your favorite character?
It's between Light or Miller. I like Light because he's just like I think he's hysterical, especially when he pulls out that gun and he starts shooting back at the guy shooting out of the thing, out of the window. And it's so funny because he has no rules. He's very cynical about everything. But then right when Emilio gets in the car, the first thing he says is like, "Hey, put your seatbelt on. I don't drive with other people with seatbelts." Yeah. He has one rule. He'll kill people, he'll shoot people, don't give a shit, but don't drive without a seatbelt.
So good.
Kyle, did you have a favorite character?
I would go back to what I said earlier. I think it was Miller. Miller was definitely my favorite. I think he was the most interesting, and I don't know, he always had like such weird insight in that whole when after Emilio gets his ass kicked, he's like doing like a Indian chant dance with the wet rag as he brings it over to him. It's like, what the fuck is happening?
And wraps it around his head.
Yeah.
He's a spiritual guy.
And then what happens after that? He runs. That's when the office lady is fighting with the two like MIB guys, basically.
Oh man, I loved that scene.
Yeah, and she's like kicking their asses, and then Emilio jumps in.
Okay, now I have a question: is the cop that he throws the coffee at, that Emilio throws off, that's
the rent-a-cop?
Why does he switch up so quickly?
I don't know. I wondered that too.
That's the one thing about the film where I'm like, why is he
I think it's because he thought the two guys that were in the office were like FBI or cops, so he doesn't want to get in trouble. So they're the bad guys. I'm with you guys.
He's trying to fight for.
Okay.
Yeah. What he's.
That's what I think his motivation of like jumping was.
I feel like I fell asleep during this part because I have no idea what scene you're talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you fall asleep during this movie?
I think maybe a couple of times.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. That's it.
This movie's
so
boring
then
as fuck.
you didn't like the pacing of the movie. Then I take
God
it.
Damn it, no.
I didn't mind the pacing. Did anyone else?
I didn't either.
It was.
I thought it was real.
I mean, there was.
hard.
I will say this. I will say this. I there was a couple times where I was like, you can make this into a short film. You can make this into a half-hour
right?
short film.
It easily could have been a short film.
You would have to take out a lot of the other stories, though. You would have to keep it to the alien story and the
would
Emilio
that really
story.
be a bad thing though? That like this going back to what I said, like maybe this feels like 4 short films that have been just smashed together, and the way they were able to connect these 4 completely different short stories was just have one character who appeared in all of them, and that was it. That's what this movie feels like to me.
Like a 4 rooms with the Quentin Tarantino
downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know. I just
That's
wasn't
an interesting take on it.
It's got me thinking about something.
I mean,
What are you thinking about, Mike? Go ahead and share with the group.
Okay. So I have 2 favorite lines, so I'll just pick one of the favorite lines that I love, and then we'll go into the other one. I'll use that as my other one.
Okay.
If we are going to do that.
Yeah, we're gonna do favorite lines.
You can do 2 because I have none.
Oh, okay, I'll do one for you. One of my
No, you
favorite
won't.
lines in this film is when Miller is talking to him. He's burning the stuff in the drum, and he's talking about coincidence.
Oh
And
yes.
he uses the words "a lattice of coincidence," like the idea that like there's some sort of structure to all the coincidence that happens, that like they're intertwined, because that's kind of like what a lattice is. It's kind of like a chain link fence kind of thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was a beautiful line, and the way he describes it, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, totally. Like,
well, maybe that's what this
deep.
that's what this movie is. Then.
And well, what you just
What
said
you
kind
just
of
broke
made me
down.
thought about that.
Yeah.
Like maybe it is. Maybe that's all these characters are in a lattice of coincidence.
I think absolutely. It
I
has
agree.
to be.
Yeah, no. Now that you have pointed that out, I agree 100% with that diagnosis of the film.
So that's what kind of works. And I know this director, he does make short films. So maybe he's like the product of short film making that wanted to make a feature. So that's kind of why it feels like that. but I think he did a pretty good job keeping it interesting. You know what I mean? Like there was enough in there. There was like car chases, there was like violence, there was a little bit of sex, but a lot of humor, and Emilio just trying to be a fucking badass, like just telling people to fuck off all the time and fuck you.
Failed. They failed on all the points you just pointed out because I did not find it was very funny. I didn't find it was an engaging action film. It wasn't Emilio Estevez. At no point did I take him as a badass. What else did you say?
That's true. Hold on.
What else did you say?
I
so
want to agree with
tear
him.
it down.
I want to agree. I want to agree with him on the point that I never felt like Emilio was a badass.
But I felt like he was always the smarter one. He's the smarter character.
I feel like he is not the smarter one. He's just dealing with what's thrown at him. He's not actively trying to get through situations. He's just. Here's a situation. How do you get out of it? Like, I stumbled my way out of that one. What's the next one I'm stumbling my way through?
Smart.
I love the. You know what? One of the things I love.
Makes him lucky.
Oh, here we go. Now he's lucky.
He makes him lucky.
I agree. No,
smart.
I agree. He's more lucky than smart, and I think that I was always a little annoyed by his character.
Yeah,
I was never. I'm never a fan of I wasn't a big fan of Otto. I didn't really. I don't want to say I didn't care if he won or lost, but he wasn't my favorite character. So. You know what I mean?
It's true. I really didn't give a shit
because
what happened to his character.
He's kind of a bitch. He's a little bit of a bitch. Your boy's sleeping with your girl, and you're just gonna go storm off and cry.
He's like the balance between.
He's not a badass.
And then he just starts shouting TV shows from the fucking 70s.
That's a song. That's a song.
Is that a song?
It's a Black Flag song.
Okay, well, obviously I did not know that, so I
brush up on your punk rock, please.
Apparently, not in addition to watching the movie, I should have been brushing up on punk music as well.
That's what I'm saying.
So much of it
that's a part of the reason why I think it's a cult film.
What's funny though, like the thing that I actually liked about this movie was the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was cool. The soundtrack was fun and it was energetic. It just didn't match the picture.
Really,
totally
I
did.
thought
I think
felt.
100%.
Oh my god, I disagree with that.
The music had energy.
Disagree.
The film itself was dragging and slow.
Nope.
I think they put the perfect music in the perfect points of the movie. I have to disagree with that. It played into the movie so well.
Isn't that the general message of all of this? Is that this is what I got from the film. That the general message he was saying is that they were living in a world of complete fucking decline, and the response to it all was "fuck you." That's what I got from it.
I think the televangelism kind of thing they hit on too sort of has to do with that. It's like people just turning into zombies and fucking giving all their money away, and it's kind of this scandal, the scam, the whole thing is a scam.
What's the line that Bud has when he's there's what does he say he doesn't like? It's he says
I don't like commies and I don't like Christians in my car.
Yeah.
Right.
Love his lines, dude.
Yeah.
His dialogue is brilliant.
His dialogue was fantastically written. I feel like his dialogue
Miller's
got
dialogue.
the most attention.
Miller's
out of all
dialogue
of
was
them.
brilliant.
But see, I wonder if
all the supporting characters had amazing dialogue, and then Emilio felt like he was
totally agree.
Just added at the last minute.
Hold on here. Here's the thing though.
He was the medium.
Do you think that it was the actual script, or do you think it was the actor playing it? Because Emilio is the weakest actor in this film. He's the least experienced actor in this film.
It could be.
He's also the most vulnerable in the film.
As a character?
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he has some of the funniest lines. I love the line where he's like, "Your friends are shitty," and he's like, "Thanks, I made it myself."
Oh my god, I love the line when he
that's
gets
a
out of the
great
car.
line.
When he gets out of the car and he's like, "So you want to go out with me sometime?" And she's like, "I don't know, I'm really busy at work." And he's like, "All right, well here's your shit," and slams it into her chest. He's just such a dick sometimes.
He was a dick because that was I believe that was that whole punk rock attitude of
it just felt like he was trying to be a dick.
I agree.
I think he downplayed it pretty well.
I don't think so. I think he was
trying
hard to be the badass, but it wasn't
here's the twist on it though. But was that the point of the character? Was it the point of the character to say, "Hey, this guy's actually very vulnerable, but he on the outside he's trying to play this badass"?
Yeah, well, look at look at his friends.
Look how fast he drops his friends to go into a legitimate job.
He's the only one that doesn't look like any of them. They're all super extreme, and he's the kind of straighter one. You know what I mean? The more straight laced, has a conscience.
Well, it's that group that he was hanging out with kind of fucking let him down. He goes in there and his girlfriend's getting banged by this other guy.
Right.
And then I think he learned something at the end of it. He says to that guy when he's bleeding and dying on the floor, what's the line? oh, society made me what I am. I'm just a victim of society. And he's like, what are you talking about?
like, that's
bullshit.
yeah.
You're a fucking suburban white punk like me.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but it still hurts. Like, and it's kind of like he kind of learns, like, Jesus Christ, man, what do we have to be bitching about? You know?
Right.
Exactly. And I think that's why he gets away from that punk rock group. Maybe that's how it was supposed to be played, man. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I don't know. I
think so.
I still think
Yeah.
the director is definitely glorifying punk rock at the same time. I don't
Oh
think
yeah,
they're
no, definitely.
demonizing attack
I think
on it.
no. Well, I think he's like playing up the ideology of punk rock rather than maybe glorifying it. Because you're right. At the end, he does the other punk rock, the only other punk rock movie I know, SLC Punk. He kind of does like the SLC Punk thing, which probably ripped it off from this movie. Let's be honest. Of hey, punk rock and the ideology of it is kind of bullshit.
Yeah, wasn't that the message in SLC Punk at the end of it all?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it, but I also think it was kind of just like a way to make the movie more fun too. I think that had a lot to do with it. What did you guys think of like the supernaturally kind of story going on with the aliens and the radiated car?
I mean, I think it's all
Whatever.
symbolic, right?
It has
It's
to
gotta be all symbolic.
Of what?
of hot cars.
Like the plot and where the plot goes. Because why is it okay? So at the end, Miller gets into the car, and why does he point at fucking Otto? Like, why him? Why not anybody else?
Yeah,
Because Otto was nice to him.
Right, I understand that, but like
It has to
he
be
saw
more than
something in
that.
this kid where he's like, kind of like, hey, you come with me.
Was
Let's
Mi-
go
was
to the
Miller-
fucking stars.
Was Miller
Like,
an alien? Let's just throw that out there. I kind of feel like Miller was like
he had otherworldly knowledge. Also.
He's
Yeah.
a time traveler.
I
Maybe,
felt
maybe not.
like he
well,
was
the
like
whole
the fifth
point.
Beatle.
The whole
think
thing.
he was-
The whole point he was making was there were no aliens. There were time travelers. That was the whole point he was making. Remember?
or like the same,
When they were
or
burning
the
it, was
same
like
thing.
was people were it could be the same thing, or it could just be an involved humans who come up with time travel, and that's all the UFOs we see are just humans traveling back in time.
I mean, I
and
just
the car became a time traveling machine. At the
that
end.
was the dumbest ending ever.
Oh, I loved
Oh
it.
my
I loved it.
Of course, the car would start fucking flying. Why not? Why fucking
Am
not
I like,
in this
dude?
movie?
You know what though? I loved the visual of like just the glow paint.
I love
painted
the
on the
I
car.
love
on the
glow-
car.
That looked
that
good.
was a genius
That
idea.
looked good.
That was
and
a genius idea.
Yeah,
I just didn't like when it started lifting up, and you could tell. it was,
Whoever
like,
lit
hanging
that,
from a
whoever
crane.
lit that, bravo. Because that's the best lighting in the movie.
It does. It looks like a special effect, but it's
Yeah.
completely practical. Like
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best lighting in the movie. Like I will say that, like that's what kind of knocks it down a little bit for me is the way that this is shot stagnant.
Yeah, it's not.
Except
there's
for the
nothing-
car chases, which I love. I love the car chases, and I think it's because I just love the way the cars look in this film.
yeah.
I don't know if it's because they're like the older '70s kind of cars and they're big and they just look cool when they're driving fast. I don't know.
I
Like-
think that could be what it
Maybe I
is.
fell
like-
asleep. You keep saying car chases. When was there a car chase?
Oh, dude,
Man,
there's like
there's
oh, like
many car chases
friggin-
in this movie.
like
Yeah.
the exact same thing that when I saw it, I was like, Jesus, T2 ripped that off in the friggin'
oh, in
yeah.
the canal.
The canal.
Yes.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Really?
It's like the virtual same scene. Like
You know what's so
But
funny?
Grease
When-
did that.
That's what I was going to say. When I watched it, I was like, oh, wow, they just ripped off Grease.
Or maybe that's what it is. Maybe
And they probably ripped off like
maybe
Rebel
everyone
Without
in
a Cause or
LA
some
Here's
shit.
my-
races in canals.
Is it weird that the thought I had when I saw that scene is when Emilio gets out of the car and just steps in the water? It's like, oh, now his shoes are all wet.
I know.
Yeah,
that's
that's
why,
what I
that's
thought,
why I
too.
was like, your shoes, dude.
Because that's the great thing about Stanton. If you look at him, he's kind of like hanging out the car. He didn't step. I don't think he the way he didn't step in the water. It just kind of says something about their characters, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too deep into that.
I don't know. I
but
kind of agree. Like Emilio doesn't give a shit.
yeah, I caught on to it. Like Emilio is like, yeah, he's not as refined as Bud.
yeah.
And
He
that's
doesn't
why-
have as much experience.
And that's why Bud's like taking him under his wing.
yeah.
Yeah, you know who else I liked actually, and it was a very minor role, but I liked his nerdy ass friend from the beginning.
he
I
was
did too,
great.
yeah, which he I guess later joined the band the Circle Jerks, which is a band featured in on the film soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which is here's another thing too that like, okay, so it's the only crane shot I remember in the movie is when he's walking away from after pushing him into the
cans?
The cans.
The intro
Throwing
scene.
him into the cans and flipping everybody off.
Yeah. Oh,
Like-
that was so stupid. That's the other thing.
I
that
like
was
how the
like,
security guard has a gun and pulls it. on
Yeah.
Fucking.
for a guy who flips him off.
That's supposed to be funny. That's not supposed
It's
to be
not
serious.
funny, though. I didn't
It's
think it was
hilarious.
hilarious.
I got the same.
It was
The way
feeling
the
from
way
it.
the
It's like-
security guards
yeah.
were acting is like,
Yeah.
whoa,
No.
I'm gonna shoot you.
It was no, we weren't ready for it that early in the movie.
Yeah, if,
we
that's
weren't-
if that
you
was the
have to
level of
be.
comedy that was in the film, yeah, I agree with Cody. That just came too quickly. It was just kind of like this
should've
is
been eased
stupid.
into
Why
it.
the fuck does a security guard have a gun? Is he pulling it after just
Look
pushing
how
a guy in a
goofy that
can?
motherfucker looks.
Wait, hold
He
on
just
though.
looks like a
Hold
fucking
on.
security guard who
Or
has a job he doesn't
Snoop
like.
Hold
Dogg
on,
and
though.
Cat Williams mix.
Like, would that have been more believable in 1984 for us though?
What?
Yeah.
No.
A security guard with a
No.
gun?
No,
and
not
a
that I think it
fucking-
would really
At a
happen,
fucking grocery
but-
store? No.
You know, because we're
Why would the security
we're-
guard at the
dude-
grocery store have a gun?
Because in the 80s, dude, they just gave everyone
This
guns.
whole movie, this whole movie is a little irrational.
Yeah,
like, let's
people
just
get
go there.
vaporized.
I agree.
Like,
Okay, I love this fucking. Tell me if you guys love this scene as much as I do. When he first goes back to the repo yard and he goes inside and they're like, "You want a job, kid?" And he like cracks the fucking beer and dumps the whole thing on the ground and
Yes.
throws it. And he's like, "Fuck you," you know. And, like, I love that.
No, that
the
scene-
timing is so good.
That
and then
scene was brilliant because they basically were like, they saw like, okay, this kid's trying to be fucking tough, and they just threw it in his face with like, oh, you're one of us. And
No,
then
but the line that leads up to that is so fucking good, dude. He's like, normally when somebody pulls some shit like that, my first reaction is to walk up and bust him in the face. Like, but you're all right.
Yeah, exactly. They turned it, and that's what Emilio's expecting, but they turned it around on him. And then what's his name? The black guy just walks in and ignores the fuck out of him and opens the door and
So
walks in.
somebody piss on the floor again?
Yeah, just to prove. I feel like that was just to prove that Emilio, like they were saying to Emilio, like in this world, dude, you don't mean shit. So stop acting like you mean shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, he learns that quickly.
And maybe that's like a subpar thing on like the punk rock culture. I don't know. Maybe that's what he was saying, something about punk rock and that where like you think you're higher and mightier than maybe people, but you're not.
Well, and maybe like a Repo Man or like the punk rock of adulthood.
And that's what I got from that too. I did get that from that. You know what, guys? We're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna you know what? Let's play the remake game. When we come back, we're gonna play the remake game where we're gonna recast this movie, and yeah, we'll do that. We'll be right back.
It's like a lattice of coincidence that lays on top of everything. I'll give you an example, show you what I mean. Suppose you're thinking about a plate of shrimp. Suddenly somebody will say like plate or shrimp or plate of shrimp out of the blue, no explanation. No point in looking for one either. It's all part of a cosmic unconsciousness.
You eat a lot of acid, Miller, back in the hippie days?
All right, guys, it's time for America's favorite game. It's time for the remake game. Thank you. No, thank you. You guys are too kind. Too kind. I'm your host for the remake game. I am Cody Everett. We are talking about remaking Repo Man. All right. Stop it, guys. Stop it. You're too kind. Hey guys, we're back. We're gonna talk about Repo Man. We're gonna play the remake game where we everybody's got a different character and they have to cast somebody else in the role of that character in this iconic cult film. All right, Chris, you have what I think is the toughest character, but I have an answer for it too. You have Bud. Who would you recast as Bud?
Okay. This didn't take as long as I wanted it to because I really wanted to think about it, but this person came to mind and I can just visualize it so well. But I would love it if Alan Arkin played Bud.
yeah.
Okay.
And my second choice, and it's not my favorite choice, but another guy that came to mind would be Larry David.
Oh,
my God.
Wow! I did not think of Larry David, and I actually think that's the stronger choice.
Really? Yeah.
Here was my choice for that. We saw him recently at the Mad Monster Con. I would have to say Henry Winkler.
I'm still giving my vote
That
to
could be good.
Larry David.
That could be good.
It could be good.
It could be good. Henry Winkler
With
could
his
be a good-
dialogue?
Yes.
Shit, dude.
Yes, he could be a great Bud.
Cool.
All right, Mike, you had Light.
I have Light, and I'm kind of going on the same page you are. I'm thinking about somebody that's like the opposite. Like he plays him real straight in the film, but I'm thinking like, I don't know why I'm thinking like somebody like a Jason Sudeikis or like a Jamie Foxx, somebody that acts like a badass all the time, but really is not a badass. But he carries a gun, but he doesn't really ever use it. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it would work, but I kind of feel like it would amp up the comedy in that character.
Did anybody else have a choice for Light? Kyle?
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
Dude, Sam Jackson, man.
I'm surprised
I
no
don't know
one
about
said.
Sam Jackson.
I'm surprised no one said Ernie Hudson.
Dave
No?
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. No.
What's the
If he played
what's the other
serious-
comedian?
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart.
He's too small.
Too small.
He's not.
Dude, that's the best thing because now he
Kevin
really
would be-
has a reason to act big.
It would
and
be
act fucking
funny.
You know what
crazy.
though? You know what? Kyle, you have Otto.
I do have Otto.
So I'm going to jump a little bit. I would say Kevin Hart would be a great Otto because you could take playing up the comedy a little bit more, but you take instead of doing for the remake instead of doing punk rock, you do hip hop.
Thank you for taking.
I
away
don't
my
like this
character.
idea at
Yeah,
all.
me neither.
I
No?
hate
Yeah.
everything about that.
Okay, all right, Kyle, you had Otto. Who is your choice?
Dude, there was only one that I could really think of, and that's Channing Tatum.
Oh,
He's got he's proven to be able to do comedy well. He's proven to be able to do action well. He can do all the elements of that character.
He can get ladies' panties wet really
He
well.
can get ladies'
really
panties
well.
wet really well, and I think he would do a much better job than Emilio did.
That's a great choice.
Oh man, I don't know about that.
What? Why?
I don't know. I think you need somebody a little scrawnier.
No,
A
no.
little scrawnier.
Yeah.
He can lose some weight.
Jonah Hill.
Dude, I was thinking the exact same
Michael
thing.
Cera?
No joke.
Michael Cera. No, Michael Cera's too.
No,
What about
he's
Jesse
too-
Eisenberg?
No.
I don't like Jesse
No?
Eisenberg at all.
No.
The thing about it
He's
is
too
that
annoying.
okay, so Otto's character is like he's this like like typical like white suburban youth that's like loves punk music and he has that attitude, right?
Justin Bieber.
No.
But punk music's pretty. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's dead. Like it's not like people don't listen to it
it's
anymore.
pretty dead.
But the message is gone. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't-
why
it
I
doesn't
didn't want to go
translate
with somebody
now.
that embodied that. I think Channing Tatum's just fine. He's more in line with like modern
But then
audiences.
what do you think would be like the subtext of his character? What would he represent? If Emilio, if Otto represents
he can still be a lost youth, someone who doesn't have guidance yet on where he wants his life to go.
What about
Yeah.
Michael Pitt?
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who
He
that
was
is.
in Funny Games. He was in The Dreamers. He's kind of like a weird,
I've not
like
seen any of these
drugged
movies.
out looking kind of guy. What about Macaulay Culkin?
Fuck that.
Too old.
Just kidding.
Too old for it.
How about Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Oh, hey,
I
that's
think
not a
that
bad choice.
could work.
Not a bad
That's
choice.
not a bad choice
That
at all.
could work.
You know, he already played Hersher. Did anybody see that? Where he plays like a heavy metal.
Oh, I
kinda
did see
guy?
that,
It's
and
kind of similar to some
It is
extent.
actually. You know what? That's a good choice. So my two: Channing
I
Tatum,
might even
Joseph
go.
Gordon-Levitt.
I might even go with somebody that's just not known yet. Like I think there might be somebody who can really fit that role well.
Well,
we
that
don't.
that doesn't really work for the remake
Yeah.
game because we can't
I choose
say,
unknown.
I'm doing a casting call.
that one guy who hasn't been found yet. He'll be fantastic.
All right.
Cody?
Who did I have? I had
Who did you have?
Miller.
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 I had Miller. Okay, so who I'd recast as Miller is Clint Howard.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
He's a little old, but
Who's
pretty
Clint
good.
Howard.
Ron Howard's brother,
Oh,
Ice Cream Man.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, dude, he's that would be. I could
Yeah.
see it. I think he's a little old, but he has that creep factor.
Yeah.
Can I suggest one actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually have two I would suggest for him. Number one, Rutger Hauer.
Okay.
He is, again, a little old, but the character who played Miller, even in the film, looked very, like, his hair was stringy. He looked pretty aged and weathered. Or Jeff Bridges.
Oh.
So he already has that strung out,
Jeff
stoned
Bridges.
out-
No, for me, Jeff Bridges would be too big
I don't think so.
of a character. You need.
I think he can play a background character better. That or Bill Murray.
Bill Murray would be an interesting choice, especially with the way how the movie ends.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting
He's
choice.
a weird enough guy. Nothing.
That's the remake game, everyone. Hold on. And there's the applause. All right, thank you. So, what do you guys think of the end?
You don't think it means anything, Kyle,
I could
correct?
take it or leave it.
Okay, I think. I mean, it's definitely symbolic. I think it's like they're like.
You're looking too much into it. I'm just gonna tell you before you keep going. but Keep going.
I think Miller is like the enlightened guy, and that's what Otto's point. Like he brings him with him because he's like, you know what, you probably gonna get me. You're gonna get me. You know. I think everybody else is pretty much static, right? Does anybody see light going on in the car?
No.
No, there's no one else.
I mean, I think like it's symbolic of like Emilio sort of being the hero in a sense, like he's the kind of the chosen one. Like Like, he's gone through all of this stuff. Like, we followed him through this whole story. So who else is going to get in that car? You know what I mean? Like, oh, and what I loved about that whole scene was what we talked about with the end of Big Trouble in Little China, where he just leaves her in the dust. And I loved that about this film too, because it was the same. It was like, wait, what about our relationship? And he's like, fuck that, and like gets up and goes into the car and takes off.
Glad I tortured you.
The only reason that I think that didn't work as well as at the end of Big Trouble is because her response was like, well, fuck you. And it was just like, you took the badass away from it. It's like, if she was just stunned and was at a loss of words, would have been more badass.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't really a good person. She's not like...
She wasn't even a good character. I don't even remember her
like Gracie Law, who actually cared about Jack.
Yeah,
you
Gracie Law cared.
Yeah, this girl was willing to put volts of electricity through his body.
With a metal hand lady that's made out of tinfoil. They were the most pointless two characters in the whole goddamn movie.
Yeah, I mean, again, the whole movie. Just saying. Pointless.
I don't know if it's supposed to read into like the whole big government like conspiracy, and it's like our world is being controlled by like the Illuminati.
I love the joke that he makes like about the book. It's called like Diuretics, and it's supposed to be a joke on Dianetics. I don't know if it's actually a joke or if it's like maybe he read Dianetics and that's where a lot of this came from. I don't know.
That's really funny.
Mike, you don't think this had anything to do with the Cold War?
No, not really. I mean, unless he's talking about like, atom bombs and shit. I mean.
No, you're digging on that one, man. Put the shovel down, walk away.
Well, he does say that, right? Isn't that what the Doctor is all about? Like, oh man, people get disintegrated and you don't even know. Like, what doesn't he say? Something like
he has
that?
a whole speech about it.
He has like a weird conspiracy mentality of, I don't know.
You guys are trying to give this film so much more than it deserves.
All right, well then let's get into that. How are we rating this movie?
Oh,
that's Chris's pick. What do you think, Chris?
Are we rating it Emilio's?
No, we are not.
Gotta be something.
Emilio!
No, we are going to rate this glowing cars.
Glowing cars. I like that.
Okay,
glowing cars. Well, then, you know what? Let's start off with the guy who loved the movie the most. Let's start off with Kyle.
I guess. Well, given the points and everything I've already brought up, I'll start with what I liked about the movie. Soundtrack, solid. It was fun, energetic. It was good. I love when the weird spy guys came on. It was like that weird kind of old school 60s spy music that was playing. You know, it was like they had a theme song and shit. What I didn't like about the movie, everything else. So with that in mind, I'm going to give this film one glowing car.
One glowing car from Kyle. How are you not entertained by this movie? That's your fault.
That is your fault.
How's it feel? How's it feel, Kyle?
I don't think it was my fault. I think it was the fault of the director not able to better piece together his four completely different thoughts that he thought would make a complete film.
Okay.
Chris, how many glowing cars would you give this movie?
I'm going to give this a solid 4. 4 glowing cars.
4 glowing cars?
I really like this movie. Like I don't mind that it's a little bit disheveled, as Kyle would kind of describe it. I think the characters are really fun and the story is really fun. There's a lot of elements I really love about it. I get the comedy. I love the comedy of the film. I like the style. I definitely think the director had a great style, and overall, like when I walk away from the film, I'm satisfied. So it's getting a 4.
Mike, how many glowing cars?
You know, this is probably the hardest film I had to review because I knew it was somewhere between 3 and 5. I'm just going to split it down the middle. I'm going to say I'm going to give it 4 glowing cars. And I'm only docking it 1 glowing car because I think the content of it doesn't hold up to now. Like, I don't know how you could start to shit on the remake game, but I just don't see it being remade.
Why are you just shitting on the remake game? God damn it.
It's so ingrained in like the 80s and punk culture, and that stuff is kind of like it's gone.
Why can't we remake movies
like,
in the 80s? Why can't we just say we're set it in the fucking 80s?
Yeah.
It's set in the fucking 80s, Mike.
I mean, you could.
It's remade now. God damn it.
Who's gonna watch it other than us?
I'm not gonna watch it.
30-year-olds,
if you put fucking Channing Tatum in that shit, you know people are gonna go watch it.
I mean,
Shia LaBeouf. That's another good one.
Do you see?
Oh, that's a terrible choice.
Just do it.
Do you see teenagers going to run over to see Channing Tatum and being like, "Oh, so that's what it was like in the '80s"? Like,
Yeah.
No, you
think
couldn't do
punk
that.
makes a comeback.
It's kind of an exaggerated fantasy.
I feel like
80s.
the punk culture was just there to kind of act as a catalyst for his decisions and his attitude. I think it could be remade with a different context, getting as far away from the punk element as possible.
I agree.
I think it was massively ingrained in this film. I don't
Instead
think
of
the film
punk
works
rock,
without it.
instead of punk rock, it's daughtry music. Just throw
oh God,
throw whatever you want. Country music. Now it's a western.
The entire American
Fucking
Idol winners.
folk resurgence music.
Yeah, dude. Whatever.
I like the Lumineers.
It'd be exciting.
Fucking Mumford and Sons, the whole
Mumford and Sons.
fucking goddamn soundtrack.
God,
The rebelliousness of folk music. They don't use drums.
man.
So what I would have to give this movie is I would have to give it I'd have to give it 3.5 glowing cars. I can't give it quite a 4 because I just have a lot of problems with the movie aesthetically. It's like just when there's not action going on, it's just shot boring. It's shot very stale in my opinion. Soundtrack bomb.com though. Tell you that much. I enjoyed the soundtrack. I enjoyed where it's placed in the movie. The acting I liked. Emilio's a little rough around the edges, but I question why he is in this podcast. So that tells you right there that I'm not sure if he's playing it a certain way or if he was just a bad actor at that time. So that's why I got to give it 3.5. I enjoy the movie. It inspires me as a filmmaker too. They had such a simple idea to tie all these stories around, which is just aliens in a trunk. And as weird as it may be, it was such a simple idea to go off of, and that's what simple's hard. I mean,
yeah.
Anyone will tell you. I think that it works in creatively. Simple is the hardest thing to do because you always overthink things, and I think that's the one thing they really didn't do, but it also seems like they did do is overthink this movie, which I think is cool. It left me asking a lot of questions, which I like going into films and leaving it asking questions. So yeah, 3.5.
Did you just say that?
I don't know, dude.
Did you
what I said?
just say that? that the great thing about this film is they mastered simple, but they didn't fucking pull it off at all. That's what you just said.
Well, like it's a simple context.
It's a simple concept, but it was not.
Yeah. But they layered difficult and other things to talk about on top of it.
I'll say what I think it's like, and maybe you can agree with me. I feel like it's like an Andy Warhol picture, like simple, like something simple, but it says there's layers to it. That means something. It like has a deeper meaning.
Andy Warhol, bro.
That's
what I was saying.
It was a director who had 4 separate ideas that he couldn't flesh out entirely, so he connected them all using one character.
Well, I want to get
whoop-de-doo.
The ratings say otherwise, Kyle.
It bombed at the box office.
Oh, you know what?
Of course it did.
It's sitting on a 98% on Rotten. And on top of that, like it was well critically acclaimed when it came out, despite the fact that it didn't do well.
Okay. So I want to get to that really quick. We never asked what makes this a cult film. Like what?
I think it's the punk rock element, the alien element, because it has like a 50s B movie feel to it too, like with the whole like alien creatures in a trunk thing and the whole way the X-ray vision kills are and stuff like that. So I think that's what like the punk rock, and I think that kind of has and it has an indie feel to it, man. It just has this weird feel to it that is something different that you really haven't seen before, but you kind of seen before. I know I keep on double speaking.
It's like a $1.5 million budget.
It was a 1.8, and they recouped 129. So if you want to do your math, that's they made 14%.
That is really horrible.
Fucking goddamn.
I wonder
terrible.
how that can even be possible.
Well, I mean, they gave him another film right after.
Well,
that,
did you watch the movie? Because I don't wonder.
But it had great. I mean, it did great. I mean, people were talking very highly of the film when
This
it came
film
out.
was, I mean, it was popular, and I think it's a cult film because it's non-conventional and it manages to pull it off. You know?
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like, what?
I also think
it's quotable. It's certainly fucking quotable. I'm sorry, I disagree with you.
Again, I don't remember any fucking quotable
name,
lines
like,
to this
10
movie.
lines.
If you saw it
Like,
2
oh
or
my
3
God, so
times, you
good.
would. You know,
I shouldn't have to see a movie 2 or 3 times to be quotable. That's one of the great things about most cult films. You see it once, you remember many lines, and you quote them to your friends, and then everybody's like, "What the hell are you talking
Well,
about?"
that grows over time. I mean, you have to see with the first time you see the movie, you don't always remember every quote.
Yeah, and you gotta like it.
You
gotta like it.
obviously
That's
you gotta
important.
Like it.
You know.
I think the soundtrack.
I went into it wanting to like
I
it.
think the soundtrack of this film, and also the punk rock element, the alien element. I think like the fact that it is unconventional, all these things you guys have said, but also I think I think the fact that it is unconventional in the writing, in the writing style is.
It's definitely different. It's different.
I think it's different.
You know what's
I just think it was
friggin'
boring.
ironic about this is that Kyle absolutely hated this film. He doesn't think it means anything, but his quote was the only thing that made me and Cody get real deep into it. Like, he like figured it out. Like we're like, oh my god, that's genius. No, it didn't mean anything. I didn't mean that at all.
All right, guys, that's our show for the week. This is Cult Film Review. I'm your host, Cody Everett. And follow us on Twitter at cultfilm_review. Follow us on Instagram at cultfilm_review. You can also follow us on Facebook. Please follow us on Facebook. Rate us 5 stars. Give us great reviews. Tell people that you love us. The more stars we get, the more reviews we get, the more people that can find us and help us out with the show. We appreciate you guys listening. Anybody else got anything else they need to plug real quick?
Yeah, I need to plug the next movie we're doing.
Oh, what yeah. So I Married an Axe Murderer. Let's do that. Mike Myers. It's a great movie.
Oh yeah, that's what we're doing.
So that's what we're doing. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. See you next week.